Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to either our 12th or 13th, I've lost track, class of Bhagavad Gita. We're actually going to start the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita today. So we're more than halfway through the Bhagavad Gita now, as of today. And a little bit of an update. So Kelly and I are not going to go to India in a couple of weeks, which means that for the Bhagavad, next week. So, which means that we're going to continue with Bhagavad Gita. By popular demand, we're going to finish the Bhagavad Gita. We're going to take next week off for everyone to catch their breath, read ahead if you like. We'll continue with reflections and questions on WhatsApp, and then we'll pick up wherever we end today, probably somewhere in the 10th chapter, maybe the end of the 10th, beginning of 11th. And we'll go for however long it takes, probably 10, 12 weeks at the most to finish the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yes.
The week after
It's
is Halloween.
We know. Yeah. I said that, and Shami said the Bhagavad Gita doesn't stop for a holiday like Halloween.
But we won't be there.
But whoever has children, you won't be able to attend the live Zoom, but you can watch the recording.
Yeah.
We still stand by that.
Yeah, I mean, unless we can figure out another time, because it's just really hard to coordinate another day with as many people.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess we could go next week and have the week after off. I don't know. I guess I'm open to that. If that's better for people, we can have Halloween off.
I know that's another.
Sounds like a good idea. Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, we can be open to that. So we're gonna set, so it's like a new cohort, if you will. So there'll be a new Zoom link. Not everyone, you also don't have to continue. If you don't want to. You don't have to continue. But if you feel like you're like, oh, I only got through 10 chapters, I need more in this association, this song is so wonderful. We'll send out a new email, a new key and Gita group, and a new opportunity to offer any donation to Shamya if you feel so inclined like that. But yeah, that sounds like based on what's happening in the room here.
Yeah, we can go next week and then take Halloween off.
Okay,
Sure.
we can go next week, take Halloween. And Justin has a question.
Yes, Justin, go ahead.
So when the class ends, will we be doing another class in this kind of setting?
When Bhagavad Gita ends,
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about Bhakti for the rest of my life.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm open to talk about the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita again. I'm open to talk about the nectar of instruction, nectar of devotion, Chaitanya Charitamrita, you name it. Yes.
We have you for life, Mel says.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
Creeper talons in you.
So thank you for your interest. Because otherwise I would just sit here and talk to Mahaprabhu, which is great, but it's sweeter with all of you here.
Nadia says, amazing, exciting news. Or maybe that was last week. Anyway, I just saw.
It's always amazing and exciting news. All right. Anything else? Logistics? I don't think so. Okay. So we'll start with some kirtan. Yeah.
Okay. So come into your comfortable seat. Take a few moments to just shift around, maybe rocking your head, your neck, your legs, your pelvis, releasing any habitual gripping in the physical form, your physical form. So we can start to go deeper into the more subtle aspects of the mind, the heart. Take a deep breath in through your nose, fill up. Open your mouth, exhale, let it go. Begin with our opening prayers, this invocation, this honoring of all of our teachers, the acharyas who walked this path before us, bestowing the light of knowledge upon us, removing the darkness of ignorance. We honor all spiritual teachers of all spiritual lineages, all spiritual paths. Breathe in.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
All right. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances, and I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes. The torchlight of knowledge, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Vanchakalpatarupyascha kripa santubhya paditanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, can fulfill the desires of everyone, and are full of compassion for all the fallen conditioned souls. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Greetings to everybody, assembled devotees live and those watching the recordings later. Hare Krishna, we're on chapter 10, the opulence of the absolute, Vibhuti Yoga. Remember that the chapters of Bhagavad Gita are different kinds of yoga, different ways of connecting. This is the yoga of Vibhuti. Vibhuti means opulence, wealth, the different opulences of the Supreme. So how to connect to the Lord through his different ways that he's great and amazing. But as we always do, we're going to start with some reviews, start with some whatever stood out from the second half of the 9th chapter or anything else from last week for any of you all. We finished the 9th chapter and there was a lot of really more than usual heartfelt and beautiful reflections on WhatsApp and private messages and questions. So I can get the ball rolling. I recall that we talked about 922 was really important for a lot of people. Ananyas chintayanto mang yejanaf paripasate teshang nitya yuktanang yoga kshamang vahamyaham. Those who are completely surrendered to me, I preserve what they have and I carry what they lack. And that Krishna actually makes up for our faults or shortcomings. And he reciprocates with the surrender of the devotee by proportionally surrendering himself. That was really sweet. And a lot of people found that beautiful. Anything else that stands up from your recollection, your readings, your meditation this week?
I'll go. In addition to that verse, Prabhu, which I just like starred and hearted and wrote all kinds of stuff following that in 926, when he talks about if you offer it with devotion, a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I'll accept it. And so my reflection on that was that bhakti is experienced directly. So when we offer water, we acknowledge that he is the taste of that water and he has manifested that water and he's manifested this experience. And so the takeaway was that whatever the most beautiful things we have, we can offer that. And it's an invitation to bring Krishna present, in our consciousness.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Krishna begins the chapter 9.2 by saying, Pratiksha vagamang tarbhyam. This practice is experienced directly. Pratiksha is experienced through your senses, it's experienced for yourself. That there's the theory and there's the experience, personal experience. So if you offer me a leaf, a flower, food, or water, very humble offerings, very simple offerings, he asks, you just give something with devotion, then I'll receive it, I will accept it. And he offers in the next verse, he gives an open invitation. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, whatever sacrifices, whatever austerities you perform, do it as an offering to me. Beautiful. Justin's got his hand up.
Just to continue on that too, like also offering the challenges and hardships back to Krishna as and have gratitude in that, because those things happen to us for a reason, and being able to just offer everything, not necessarily all the beautiful and good things, but also all the tough, hard, and challenging things, because that's what really helps us develop and grow spiritually as well. Absolutely. Yeah, offering Krishna that we're present in the situation, offering our best effort, offering our attention, offering that we're willing to receive. What does this mean for me? How is this happening for me, not to me? Absolutely. Yeah, he's not any less in those situations than he is in the really good, sweet stuff. And in fact, Arjuna, his impetus for Bhagavad Gita was
the rough patch, to put it mildly, the challenge, the teachable moment. And it's often like that. That's what really gets him to reach out. And that's what allows him to feel the presence of Krishna, understand his relationship. That's what motivates him. Tanya.
Yeah, I really loved the whole thing, but text 30 really stuck out to me in the purport, talking about mistakes are like a spot of the rabbit on the moon. I just love that analogy, and that it doesn't diffuse the moonlight from shining, right? And
Yeah,
as a recovering perfectionist that struggles with any mistakes, it's really nice to hear that and know that any effort, no matter how mistake prone we might be in our offering, is still okay.
absolutely. And it's not the first time we've heard this message. In the 6th chapter, we heard about how Krishna gives chance after chance to people to come in touch with him, and that if they've made incomplete advancement, Arjuna's afraid. He's like, well, what if I don't make it all the way, right? And Krishna says, Nahi kalyana kascha durgatim tata gacchati. My dear, my tata means like my dear, my friend. It's a term of affection. One who does good is never overcome by evil, because whatever you do, I use the analogy then, it's like drops of water in a bucket. The level never goes down. You're just accumulating and accumulating and accumulating. You pick up from wherever you left off. He talks about you'll get association of spiritually minded persons. You'll naturally be attracted to the yogic spiritual principles. You'll already have that asset. It won't go away. Mm-hmm. So, and then he's saying very explicitly here that even if one makes terrible mistakes, if they're sincere, and the sincerity is demonstrated by their fixity of determination and purpose in the practice of bhakti, then he considers them saintly, because he understands that they will come to the other side of it, of their challenges. And he says everyone else should consider them saintly too, in terms of their determination, that they can get through it. So very, very generous. Krishna is quite the opposite of a lawyer. Not to like malign the profession, but like he's not looking for excuses to keep us out of his association. He's really looking for like ways to bring us in. Very, very generous person. Yes.
Just adding on to the generosity, verse 32, no discrimination, no matter what your nationality, no matter who you are on the outside, everyone's welcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, truly non-sectarian.
That lands right now too.
Yes.
Everything
Yeah.
happening in Israel
And everywhere else. Yeah.
and everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you said something, Shania, is all of the drops in the ocean are unique and different,
Mhm.
but it's still the ocean that we're all together.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think that
Yeah, that ocean example is one that Srila Prabhupada gave about the qualitative oneness that we all have with the Lord, with the Supreme, that Krishna is like the total ocean. And if you take any drop, it's got all these qualities in it. It's salty, things live in it, and you can like close up on it. It's like, yeah, that's the ocean, but it's also just really small. And it's also unique. Every soul is completely unique. Actually, in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, is described that every living entity has their own unique perspective on Krishna, and he manifests specific qualities in relationship to each one. So everybody has their own unique realization of him. Yeah. Which is one of the reasons why it's really great to be around devotees, because they love Krishna and know Krishna in a way that we never can. And if you get up real close, you can get to feel that, because it just comes off of them, how they talk and walk and move. Beautiful. Kelly?
I love verse in the beginning of chapter 9, verse 2, I think it is, about how bhakti is meant to be joyfully performed. I think that's really important to remember, and not to get too caught in the rules and regulations and how that's meant to actually lead to more devotion and more bhakti, not like pigeonhole us and feel confined and restricted, but it leads to freedom, and it's meant to be joyful. It doesn't mean we're always happy, but it's meant to be joyfully performed.
Yeah, all of the rules and regulations are servants of remembering Krishna and not forgetting him. And he uses the terms susukam. It's very joyful. Sukha means happiness, joy. Su as a prefix means a lot, very much. It's a beautifully happy path. So that's how it's meant to be. As you point out, it may not always be like that. Just like on a journey, there may be like some friction at different times, but that it's very sweet. And it's a good reminder not to not to beat ourselves up, not to focus on the negatives too much, and to allow ourselves to enjoy it as well, to enjoy the connection with him, because that's really part of the deal. He says so himself.
So I have
Okay.
a quick question.
By all means.
You hopefully I get through it without coughing. I'm wondering why you mentioned like a few sessions back something about I think Canadian prisons are a little bit different, and I never asked you this question, but I'm wondering, I had some deep thought about this, having worked in the prison system for 10 years, of like, why has this book never even set foot in a prison? And what is the, it's so inside, on the inside, people are looking for so much healing, yet they're driven so far away from the healing. Or maybe it's people are scared, but do you have any reflection of like why this type of offering isn't offered on the inside?
Well, I mean, the good news is that it is, but the bad news is that it's not offered enough. We need to distribute more of them. There's in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, there's something called the ISKCON Prison Ministry. It's headed up by a very sweet devotee named Chandra Shekhar Das, and he's a very nice devotee. He's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he's dedicated his life for the last, I think, 20 plus years to getting Bhagavad Gita and unrelated books into prisons. So he coordinates with local government, state government, all over the United States. He's got email correspondence, mail correspondence with prison inmates, that he keeps them enthused and engaged. He knows them by name. I personally have met people who have gotten books while in prison, serving sentences, and then have come to the temple and so forth later. I have an initiated godbrother in a maximum security prison in the United States who was never going to get out of prison because he committed a crime before he became a devotee. And he came in touch with Bhagavad Gita, took it so seriously, he started chanting 16 plus rounds every day. I mean, he's got time. Took it real seriously, read all the books. And my guru made a visit in. He was only allowed for a couple hours into this maximum security prison and performed an initiation ceremony, gave him a name. So there are beautiful stories like that. However, I do agree that it is there's room for more growth, because it is absolutely a place where people are looking. In fact, in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Haridas Thakur, the Acharya of chanting Hare Krishna, of the holy name, he is thrown into jail because not because of any fault of his own, but because he was unpopular with the ruling class at the time, because he just refused to stop chanting. Anyway, so for political reasons, he was in jail for a little while, and he recruited interest from the inmates there. And he expressed to them that inside the jail or outside the jail, basically, I'm paraphrasing, if you're stuck in the jail of your own mind, if you're stuck in the prison of misidentifying yourself, that's really suffering. So however long you have to stay in this place, be free by chanting Hare Krishna and know yourself. And so we have a long history as Hare Krishnas of crossing that particular artificial barrier between inside and outside of prison, that certainly somebody can exist within prison and be a liberated soul, just as many people exist outside of prison and are completely bound. So if you want to know more, I can make a note in WhatsApp for contact information for Chandrasekhar Prabhu. He's a great devotee. He would love to hear from anybody who wants to do service or support. He probably has a bunch of services you could do if you want to support what he's doing, because there's always a need.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'll put that in there.
Just remind me. Remind me in the WhatsApp.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah. Thank you. Great question.
It sounds like Kira may have found another way she can serve.
Well,
yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah. Eileen.
I was just going to mention there's a beautiful second initiated devotee. He is semi-retired now, and his name is, it's not his initiated name, but his given name is Dr. Khanna, and he does something called the Returning Youth Initiative. Leanne and I actually got to sit down with him, and it's young people coming out of the prison system to help them find purpose in life by understanding the principles of bhakti, so that when they leave prison, they can enter with a feeling of purpose and love, so that they're successful in reintegrating into society. So yeah, there's beautiful devotee service being done both in and then also like as you know, the prison system that are coming out. So like I just think the devotees are doing amazing work in a lot of areas, but I think there is a focus in what you're talking about, Kira.
Fantastic. Yeah, and if you want to shoot a link on the WhatsApp around that, that'd be perfect too. Okay, great reflections, questions, comments. So now we'll move into the 10th chapter, Vibhuti Yoga, the opulence of the Supreme.
Can you spell that?
Vibhuti is Vibhuti. It means opulence. So look at the word opulence, means great wealth or luxuriousness. So this chapter gives many ways in which we can experience Krishna through aspects of the world that are specifically empowered. So we'll get to that in a bit, but he starts with a bit of a preamble. So let's read it from the verses here. Verse 1, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna, because you're my dear friend. For your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I've already explained." Text 2. Namavidu surgana prabhavang namaharshayah am adirhidevanam maharshinam cha sarvashah. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages, sage means like a wise person, know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. And he lists in 4 and 5 some qualities. He says, intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. He's actually the source of all these kinds of qualities. Then he says in verse 6, what he kind of already said as being the source. He says, Maharshaya saptapurve chatvaro manavastata madbhava manasajata yeshang lokima praja. The 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other sages, and the Manus, progenitors of mankind, come from me, born from my mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them. In fact, the word man, human, woman, comes from the Sanskrit Manu. Manu are the progenitors of humanity.
Can you just define progenitor?
The original creators of, yeah. The Adam and Eves, you could say. So there's a bit of a summary of cosmological genealogy in these purports, but for more information, you can refer to the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially Canto 3, 2 and 3. Okay. And then, so after talking about his opulence, how he's the source of all these other persons, in fact, every other person, and of all these qualities, he gives the result of actually knowing this. So text 7, I'll share this on the screen. This is how you know that you know Krishna. Etang vibhuting yogang cha mama yoveti tattvatah suvakalpena yogena yujyate natra samshrayah. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mine engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt. You see, so you may have heard this expression, to know him is to love him. To know them is to love them. This is true of Krishna. If you actually know Krishna, if you actually understand him, if you understand that he's the source of all these opulences, you fall in love with him. You engage in what he puts here as unalloyed devotional service. We had this expression earlier. Unalloyed means like a metal that's unalloyed. It's not an alloy. It's not mixed with any other base metal. Like for gold, there'd be 24 karat gold. Pure metal, pure love. One who truly knows Krishna, they're convinced of these qualities. They engage in devotional service. That's the natural consequence. So this is why we're reading about Krishna. This is why we hear about him. We hear from him and we hear about him. Because our goal is to develop love for God. Our goal is to actually connect in Bhakti Yoga. And the transcendental connection is the spiritual emotion of love of God, which develops gradually But like if I were to say to you, oh, I just met the most amazing person, I really love them so much. And then you say, oh, okay, well, what do you know about them? Oh, nothing, I saw them one time. You wouldn't take it very seriously, right? It's like that. So we're actually fleshing out our relationship with Krishna by understanding his qualities. So when we read, for example, in this chapter about his different vibhutis, his opulences, these are meant to engender love. For somebody who is a would-be competitor of the divine, somebody who's jealous or very selfish, they may hear about the opulences of the Supreme and think, oh, I want some of that for myself. I want that position. I want all that stuff for me. And there may be some aspect of that in ourselves. We may have some mixed motivation. We're not completely devoid of selfishness, but there's also the part of us that's feeling like, wow, that's amazing. What an amazing person. This is such an amazing, wonderful person. I want to know them more. I want to be closer to them. And then eventually I want to do service. So this is the line. This is how things progress. This is the point of learning about Krishna, in other words. Sometimes people ask, well, if it's about developing love for Krishna, why do we have to know things? And my answer is, why does it have to be that we have to know things? Why isn't it that we get to know things, right? Because that's what fuels appreciation. The more you can see somebody for who they are, the more you can appreciate them. So that's what's happening here. Krishna is actually opening up, and we get to learn about that. Question came up in another week about if there's all these complicated things that we can't follow them, the technical details, is that okay? It's like, yeah, it's okay. And because we're not doing it because someone's going to test us on it later. We're trying to take the essence of it. I gave in the context there that we were talking about like the universe and creation and destruction, all the different cycles and the periods of time and the eras within them. And it's like, even if you don't remember all that, if you hear that and you're like, wow, Krishna is like a million steps ahead of us organizing this universe. He's so smart, and he's so cool that he gives chance after chance to living entities, and he's so meticulous and so beautiful. Look at the way the world is arranged. If that's the end result of your hearing about that, then it's working. That's very good. Even if you can't remember that, Kali Yuga lasts for 432,000 solar years or whatever, which it does. So now I'll pause for a second because the next 4 verses kind of go together. They're called the Chatur Shloki, the 4 shlokas, the 4 verses, the 4 seed verses of Bhagavad Gita. Before we go into them, I'll take any comments or questions, anything that has come up in the first few minutes of the 10th chapter, if anything. Anything that you'd like to say or ask or reflect, we can do.
Great part of the Bhagavad Gita to get the pictures.
The pictures, yeah.
I know. It actually really took my breath away. This picture probably.
The middle of Bhagavad Gita is where you get the pictures. Yeah. That Srila Prabhupada called these pictures of Krishna windows to the spiritual world. In fact, if you look at this picture of Srila Prabhupada in front of a picture of Krishna, that picture of Krishna was one of Prabhupada's favorites. Krishna sitting on a rock with a deer nuzzling up on one side and a little cow, I think, on the other. In Vrindavan, he considered that one of his favorite pictures of Krishna. And the artwork that was created, just as an aside, by the devotees in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, especially when it's around artwork about Krishna's pastimes, was specifically done under Prabhupada's guidance and very, very elaborately and specifically with reference to scripture. So they're actually incredibly empowered and potent. It just how happens that they happen in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita printing. So 10th chapter, yeah.
Back then our paperback one though.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Budget.
Any questions or comments so far before we move into the Chatur Shloki, the 4 verses? If no, that's okay.
How do you spell Chatur? CHATUR?
Yeah, Chatur means 4, like quattro. Chatur means 4. These are the 4 seed verses of Bhagavad Gita. In 10:8, Krishna says, I'll share the screen. Really good verses. If you're into memorizing verses, these are good ones. If you want to learn about Bhagavad Gita, these are really important ones to take a look at. 10.8. Ahang sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam bhadabhava samanvita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Again, this point that if you really know this about Krishna, you engage in the devotional service, you engage in bhakti. If somebody is reading Bhagavad Gita somewhere and it doesn't inspire them to practice bhakti, they don't get the message that they should practice bhakti, there's something wrong. They haven't received Bhagavad Gita in an honest way, or they're closed off personally from practicing bhakti for any reason. But the whole message of Bhagavad Gita is about engaging in bhakti, and the knowing, all the accumulation of knowledge, is meant to inspire that. That's 10.8. 10.9. And this verse is very magical because actually all of you are included in it. So am I. Let's see how that happens. Matchitta madgata prana bodhayantav parasparam kathayantash chamang nityang torshanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So you're all sitting here and conversing and hearing and being enlightened by each other. And we're hearing from Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada's purports, he's enlightening us. This is the process. And this is what Krishna is describing.
Reminds me of the nectar devotion, the fourth verse, right? And then the 6 loving exchanges between devotees. Like he just will go deeper and deeper the more we study.
Mm-hmm. So this is the culture of bhakti. And there's a little bit here about the experience of the pure devotee. They derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So there's this culture of like, you read something beautiful, you realize something wonderful, you have an experience, and you, with devotees you can trust, you'll open your heart about that, and they'll hear it and be enlivened and enthused in their own bhakti from hearing from you, and then will reciprocate with their own realizations and what they've heard. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he talks about an analogy that is given in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, that, quote, Lord Chaitanya likens transcendental devotional service to the sowing of a seed in the heart of the living entity. I'll share the screen so you can follow along if you want to. Second. Yeah. There are innumerable living entities traveling throughout the different planets of the universe, and out of them there are few who are fortunate enough to meet a pure devotee and get a chance to understand devotional service. This devotional service is just like a seed, and if it is sown in the heart of a living entity, and if he goes on hearing and chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The seed fructifies just as the seed of a tree fructifies with regular watering. The spiritual plant of devotional service gradually grows and grows until it penetrates the covering of the material universe, enters the Brahma Jyotir effulgence in the spiritual sky. In the spiritual sky also that plant grows more and more until it reaches the highest planet, which is called Goloka Vrindavan, the supreme planet of Krishna. Ultimately, the plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and rests there. Gradually, as a plant grows fruits and flowers, that plant of devotional service also produces fruits, and the watering process in the form of chanting and hearing goes on. It's explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 19, that when the complete plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, one becomes fully absorbed in love of God. In such a state, the devotee actually attains the transcendental qualities in contact with the Supreme Lord. So there's a beautiful analogy, an extended analogy about the seed of devotional service and how it's watered. Shravanadi Jalo is the Bengali. The hearing and other processes of bhakti water this seed so that it grows into a plant which bears fruit, and the final fruit is Krishna prema, pure love, unalloyed love for Krishna. And so that process is referred to in seed form in this verse, that the devotees are always engaged in talking about me, the devoted in their service to me, they enlighten and converse with each other. 10:9. So now 10:10. 10:10 is a beautiful verse, one of my favorite verses. It's the first verse I ever memorized. I think many of you will be able to relate to this verse because it talks about how Krishna reciprocates with his devotee. Teshang satati yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tang yena mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. That when one is trying to come to the Supreme, he helps. He reciprocates. He gives the understanding. That understanding can be associated with those people. Go over there, read that book, ask these questions, perform this activity, search some more, or take what you found seriously that's in front of you right now and try to apply it. That sense, that intuition. Didami buddhi yogam. I give the buddhi yoga, the yoga of intelligence. He gives spiritual intelligence. He spiritualizes our intelligence. When we're trying to come to him, when we're always engaged in trying to come to him and practicing service to him. The more we're doing that, the more he reciprocates in this way. It's again reciprocal. The more he extends himself. After all, the material world is a complicated place. There are a number of paths. He doesn't just leave us alone, although it may appear that way at times. He actually doesn't. That the advancing devotee realizes even within themselves that there's a great deal of guidance throughout, internally and externally. And this principle continues in the next verse, the last of these 4 seed verses, 10:11. This is 10:8 to 10:11. 10:11. Tesham evanukum partam aham ajnana jangtamaha nashyam yatna pavasto jnana deepena pasvata. To show them special mercy. Them means those who are constantly devoted to serving him with love. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. He compares knowledge to a lamp. Ignorance, classic analogy, is just darkness. And he personally destroys the darkness with the lamp of knowledge. This is why we begin our classes and our kirtan so often with Om Ajnana Timirantasya. I was born in like a blind person into the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch lamp of knowledge. That the guru, spiritual teachers, one of the main vehicles for transmitting spiritual knowledge by which we become awake and aware. In fact, the word Buddha means wise. It also means awake, aware. This awakening and rising to higher awareness. Krishna is in charge of this. He shows special mercy to those who are trying to serve him. Those who are trying to serve him, he destroys the ignorance in their heart, putting them in touch with processes, persons, places, activities that will elevate them. All right. Anything on those 4 verses that comes out when we hear them? They're pretty deep. I think it's important to take a minute and reflect on them, maybe.
Are they called the seed verses because they encapsulate some of the most important themes in the Gita, or why is it?
Yeah, they're called the seed verses because they contain, just like a zip file, if you double click on it, it expands out into the whole thing. They contain the essential form of the Bhagavad Gita within them. They're actually very, they're pretty much complete in and of themselves. If you look at them really closely, and our acharyas, our spiritual teachers, have analyzed them very carefully. They're considered, they're occurring right almost in the very middle of Bhagavad Gita. 9 chapters before them, 9 chapters after them. They're right at the beginning of chapter 10. They come right after one after the other. And there's such important points that Krishna is making that I am actually the source of everything. Everything comes from me. And the end result of knowing this is you engage in devotional service to me, pure love. And that the what the process of devotional service looks and feels like, that the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service. They derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So how Krishna is the source of everything. I mean, that verse you could break down to like 1,000-word essay, 1,000-page essay, you know, like the universe and life and death, and Krishna is the source of all that. But what do you do about that? You hear and chant, and you converse, and you become enlightened, and you dedicate yourself in service and experience spiritual emotions. That's what 10.9 talks about. And 10.10 and 10.11 is Krishna's reciprocation in coming to him, removing ignorance, giving the understanding to come to him, in reciprocation with those who are dedicated to serving him with love. Very, very important.
I would say this Goluka, it's the highest planet. Vrindavan. Yeah, I always like when I'm falling asleep at night, I picture myself going there.
Wow.
I think it's a great way to fall asleep.
What does it look like?
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want.
You have like an image in your head.
Yeah, I picture Krishna and the planet. Yeah.
If you want, and the topic of what it looks like that picture behind you, that's from Vrindavan. Krishna and the gopis are there. In the Krishna book, I call Krishna book the spiritual comic book because it's got like 60 full color plates in it, short chapters of pastimes of Krishna fighting off evil wizards and this and that. It's like the original comic book. And I mentioned earlier how the descriptions of the spiritual world were given by Srila Prabhupada under his guidance, in accordance with scriptural indications. So you can look at them and see what Vrindavan looks like and what Krishna is doing there with his eternally pure and liberated devotees. And that activity of like remembering it before you go to sleep, that's great. In fact, in the early days of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada, when he started different ashrams, the culture was you would read the Krishna book at night while sipping hot milk right before you go to bed. The last thing you do was read some Krishna book. I used to do that as a student monk. It's really nice. And get some good stories in there, and then you go to bed like with them playing around in your mind. A little better than like watching, some like gangster movie or something, like getting that in your head, because it's gonna play. It's gonna play up there when you're sleeping, one way or another. You're gonna churn it. Better to churn Krishna and Vrindavan for sure. Any other reflections, comments on those 4 verses before we move on? Eileen.
I was just gonna say, just as a reflection on the idea of Krishna's reciprocation and just saying it publicly, like before I met Kelly, I don't know that I'd ever known or talked about Krishna. I'd never met a Hare Krishna before. And, if you had told me that my association with devotees would outnumber my like worldly friends from before today, if you told me that 3 years ago, I would say you were crazy. And so it's just like Krishna has just, the second you start to open your heart, it's like the dominoes happen. And between some of the beautiful people on this call and just like how we come in and out of each other's lives, it's just such a beautiful representation of Krishna just reciprocating that love and that desire to want to know him. And I think that, these verses really encapsulate that beautifully.
Absolutely. In fact, the association of devotees is one of the very, very primary means of expressing Krishna's mercy, experiencing Krishna's mercy as well. That he sends devotees into our lives. And it's easy to remember that when it first happens, like, wow, these people are really different and cool and great. And it's also kind of natural to sometimes take it for granted. And so we're advised to recollect and remember that, oh yeah, actually, somebody who's like trying to practice bhakti in this crazy world and therefore has like a little bit of an angle on, they understand and get and love Krishna a little bit. That's a really powerful ally in our spiritual journey. And then hearing from them, being around them, opening our hearts is always going to be important. Always going to be important. Never stops being important. When we're new, when we're advancing, when we're very advanced, it's always a relishable activity. And Krishna goes out of his way to say that the very pure devotees continue to relish each other's association. They're experiencing great tushanti cha ramanti cha, they're greatly satisfied and experiencing bliss by the way that they stoke each other's fire of love for Krishna. Not just the new people get benefit. Yes. And I think Justin had his hand up.
Yeah, I think just wanted to follow up that in text 10, it gives the, I hear it from you guys all the time, but you take one step towards Krishna and fully and devotionally, and he'll take 10 steps towards you. And I mean, these verses are like nectar, and for my personal practice, it's just validation of things that I experience. So it's, as you work and as you move your life towards devotional service in every aspect, it's like he just kind of like the lens kind of focuses back on into you and blooms and grows inside you. It's a beautiful thing. So my 2 cents.
Thank you. And we get to decide our own pace. It's very much like he's not forcing himself on anybody. That's not love. It's just like waiting, like, oh, you want more of me? Here I am. I'm ready. I'm ready to help you to the next step and show you the next thing to work on and offer realization and support and nourishment and joy, and also challenge if you need that, when we need that. And it's very much directed by like how much we're ready for and how much we're ready to step up, because from his point of view, he's ready to go to have a full-fledged connection, and he's also honoring our choice to step up, and he's reciprocating with that. Like you said, every step we take, he reciprocates many times more, for sure. Beautiful. Yeah, we can see how powerful these 4 verses are. There's a lot in them. Any other reflections or comments or questions before we move on? Okay. So we're on 10:12. Now Arjuna is convinced. He says in 10:12, Param Brahma Parang Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purushang Shashvatang Divyam Adi Devam Ajang Vibhum. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn and the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita Devala, and Vyasa confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. So then the rest of the chapter starts from his request in verse 16. Please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds. Tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds. Right? Now let's look at text 17 together. So he's convinced now. Arjuna is convinced of who he's dealing with, that his friend Krishna is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he says, I want to know the opulences by which you're experienced in the world. Katang vidyam ahang yogins tvang sada parichintayan keshu keshu jabhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya. O Krishna, O Supreme Mystic, how shall I constantly think of you, and how shall I know you? In what various forms are you to be remembered, O Supreme Personality of Godhead? He wants to remember Krishna always. This is the desire of the devotee. He wants to be reminded of Krishna. How shall I constantly think of you? How shall I be reminded of you? Practical question. So this is why Hare Krishnas are known as Hare Krishnas. We're always chanting Krishna's names. Krishna's names are non-different from him. They're actually spiritual energy. They're manifestations of his own self. And at the same time, the rest of the chapter, Krishna is going to talk about some of his manifestations in the world, material manifestations. So in 18, Krishna says, Arjuna says, again, please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I'm never satiated, I'm never satisfied in hearing about you, for the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words. And Krishna responds, yes, I will tell you of my splendorous manifestations, but only of those which are prominent, O Arjuna, for my opulence is limitless. And for the rest of the chapter, he talks about different qualities that we can experience in the world, different aspects of the world. And as an example, he says in verse 21.
Can you say verse 20?
Want me to read verse 20?
Yeah.
You love that verse? Okay. We have a special request for verse 20. Krishna starts his description of the opulences that he's going to share. Verse 20. Aham atma gurakesha sarvabhutasha yastitah. Aham adishcha madhyamsha bhutanam anta evacha. I am the super soul, O Arjuna, is seated in the hearts of all living entities. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. Yeah. Verse 21. Adityanam ahang vishnur jyotisham ravir angshuman marichir marutam asmi nakshatranam ahang shashi. Of the Adityas, I am Vishnu. Of lights, I am the radiant sun. Of the Maruts, I am Marichi. And among the stars, I am the moon. Star here doesn't just mean like astronomical star. In this sense, star means just like any body in the sky. Any nakshatra is a Sanskrit word. I am the moon of all them. So you can see the sun. Anyone ever been impressed by the sun? I mean, it's hard not to, right? It's amazing. We had an eclipse, especially sunrise and sunset. We had an eclipse recently. Those are like very powerful astronomical and astrological occurrences. Krishna is saying, of all the radiant bodies, I'm the sun. I mean, you can look at the sun, not for too long, and you can appreciate the power, the majesty, the like generosity. Like we wouldn't even have the beginning of life if it weren't for what the sun is offering every day. And I gave the example earlier that if you want to see yourself, just go out into the light of the sun and you'll see everything as soon as the sun rises. So that overwhelming quality, that's a reflection of Krishna. Or he says, you can appreciate the moon. The moon is very beautiful too, especially when it's prominent in the sky, it's full. You know, there's example after example throughout this chapter. We're going to pause here and we're going to finish this chapter next week. But I will request you to read chapter 10, verse 1 to 19 or 20. You can read ahead if you want to, but at least those verses. And we'll start to hear more and more about Krishna's vibhutis, his opulences. So just to summarize for today, we heard about to know him is to love him. The more we know Krishna, the more we fall in love and actually do something about that knowledge by engaging in service. We heard about these seed verses. Krishna is the source of everything. His pure devotees are constantly engaged in hearing about him and are very satisfied by that. They converse and enlighten each other. And that he reciprocates in their heart, removing ignorance, like a lamp removes darkness, to help them come to him. And that he's offering different ways for us to remember him in this world, including the sun and the moon. Things that are not intrinsically spiritual in and of themselves, they're just part of the world, but they're also amazing parts of the world. Just like if you see somebody in the Olympics or some sport do something amazing that you're like, oh my God, I don't know how they did that. Wow, right? That's empowered. Krishna has given him some ability. Like Lionel Messi can play soccer better than I will ever be able to play soccer. And someone else can throw like a shot put, and someone else can do this, and someone else can do that. And, you know, Kelly can lead a kirtan and a yoga class, and whatever you can see that's like, I can't do that. That's like better than I can do. That's an opulence. And so Krishna is giving a list of like a really amazing, like a short form, world record, amazing things. You can, whenever you see them, you can think of him like the sun. The sun is just going to make that list. It's just amazing. The moon too. It's meant to remind us. So Krishna is giving us an invitation. That's pretty much what we read today.
You know, and with that, if we can look at someone where maybe you envy something that someone has that you want, but you're not embodying it or exuding it in the world, rather than being jealous of them, to see it as, oh, that's an opulence that Krishna gave them. And Krishna has so many that there's enough to go around, and that if we were all good at the same thing, what a boring world. Yeah, that's a solution to envy and jealousy, because it's not really ours. Really wise people understand, even if they do something amazing, they're kind of amazed by it too, like, wow, that was really great. Thanks, Krishna. It wasn't really me. Like, I'm here, I'm trying to channel it, I'm doing my best to be honest and receive it and share it, but it's not actually mine forever. It's like temporarily mine.
And so that when you see someone else do something amazing, even if you kind of wanted to do it yourself, when you remember it's not theirs, it's not yours, it's Krishna's, he's chosen to manifest it through them, then it's like, oh, wow, Krishna's amazing. Yeah. And I'm glad that I could see that happen. I'm glad that I could see such an amazing thing. Didn't have to come through me, because it's not about glorifying me. It's about remembering how amazing Krishna is. So cool, it came through them this time. Next time it might come through me or through someone, I don't know. But it's ultimately from him, and that's what I'm reminded of now. Nice. Any other reflections or comments on today's reading discussion? Tanya.
Actually, I have a question that's not related to today's.
Sure.
So, I joined just last week, and I'm listening to the recordings and catching up. I'm curious. So I private messaged you a question last week, but I'm wondering if the group would want those questions coming into the Gita group as I catch up or not. I didn't want to presume that my questions that on chapter 1 would be would be welcomed if I'm still catching up. I'm on chapter 3 now.
Well, they're definitely welcome. I mean, my philosophy, like, on that kind of thing is that like the WhatsApp, for example, it's there for talking about Bhagavad Gita. I'm not going to say like, oh, that was like a few weeks ago, you can't ask it publicly, because if you don't want to read it, you cannot read it. No one's gonna put a gun to your head. You don't have to like respond to it. It's totally volunteer. And there are enough people who are actually interested. And probably also there's a thing of like, anytime you have a question, there's like 10 other people who have the same question who don't raise their hand or don't even know they have the question. Or maybe they don't have the question and they're just like, huh, I didn't think of it that way when you put it the way you put it. It's never bad. If it were bad, then why would Bhagavad Gita be Arjuna asking question after question, including the same ones over and over again sometimes? Is Krishna like, oh man, you're so slow, bro? No, never. So like, yeah, go for it. I mean, there's enough nodding heads that I know I can speak for everybody here. And if someone's not into it, that's cool. Maybe they don't have time to read it, but yeah, by all means.
All right, thank you.
To privately, if that serves you, that's also an opportunity that I offer people.
We learn so much from everybody.
We learn
so
much
much from everybody else. So
yeah,
the more we can hear from other people, it's just so valuable.
Right. I mean, we just heard that the devotees are always engaged in enlightening and conversing with each other. Like, how do you enlighten without questions and answers, right? And the question is actually more enlightening than the answer sometimes. So
true.
Oh, we have another attendee, Justin's little one. Hey, youngest reader of Bhagavad Gita. Love it.
So sweet. A little pigtail.
Great. Any more
Any reflections?
reflections or comments, questions before we? And it did go really fast.
It did.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're having so much fun.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
I just really love the point you made on chapter 10, verse 9. You said this is a magical verse, right? Because it involves all of you and
Yeah,
it involves me.
right
I
there.
just think like association is so key. And it just like makes, in my own experience, makes me feel not alone in my practice and realize that other people struggle with the same things that I do. And like you also said, of like it stokes the fire. It's like, or it fans the spark, as your guru says, right? And or fans the flame. Fans the spark. And in my own practice, whenever I'm not feeling like particularly inspired, or if I'm feeling stagnant or something like this, that having association, whether it be in our sangha, but also going to be with my teacher, these different things, it's like, oh, it's such an invigoration. So
absolutely,
like without devotee association, without like that verse, without that sharing confidentially and giving each other gifts and getting together to chant and talk and all these different things, it's like, it's not ever fresh, it's not expanding and growing. So I just really wanted to underscore that, and thank you for calling it a magical, because whenever the word magic is used, my ears perk up.
She just said it every verse. Much more intently.
Yeah, and the proof of what you're saying is that, you know, we're all getting so much, we're all appreciating so much this experience of reading and diving into Bhagavad Gita together, because many of us try to read it on our own, and it's harder. There's much more support when it's together, and it's guided, and there's the benefit of experience and mutual questioning and answering. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna say something else too, but that'll do for now on that. Any other? Okay, yeah, Kira, thank you. I have to head out. Teenage son begging to eat. All right, well, yeah, the appetite of a teenage boy is also an amazing thing. Speaking of magic and opulence, I remember when I could digest anything. Those days are past.
Okay, so next week we'll send out an email, and next week we'll continue.
Yeah, next week we'll continue. We'll finish the 10th chapter next week, and then we'll have to take a week off for Halloween.
Very auspicious, like very auspicious holiday.
By that. Sorry.
And then we'll continue.
And also just note that since we're not going to India, that we wanted to make sure that we do some special events and things like that for Kartik, which is starting next weekend.
Mhm.
Yes. So be on the lookout for things like that. We're even talking about a 12-hour kirtan sometime this month and things
Yeah.
like that.
Stay tuned for special events for the sacred month of Kartik.
Yeah.
Julie is asking where are the YouTube videos being posted. We upload them every night after the class, and I post the link into the chat. And there is a playlist on YouTube that is not completely populated. I think I've missed a few, but there's I can populate that list of just each class. And if you want some back classes and you don't have the link for it, contact Kelly. She'll get in touch to you.
Yeah.
She'll get in touch with you about them with the link. And yeah.
Bye.
Chai. Thank you, all of you. Anything else before we end? I think we're good.
I just wanted to also thank you, Shami Pras,
Hare
for
Krishna.
sharing your devotion and wisdom and enthusiasm with all of us and our Sangha in Vermont and beyond. We're sprawling all throughout the country now. And, you know, I think that what you are contributing to I know that what you're contributing to our Sangha is what we were all missing. And you've really contributed to upping our spiritual game. So thank you so much for your service.
I'm deeply honored to have such attentive ears and to be able to share whatever I've been given. That's what makes me happiest. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Okay, everybody. See you next week, or see you in the recordings and in WhatsApp. Haribol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.